Good morning, Denver, and welcome to the Mile High Mortgage and Real Estate Report, brought to you by Castle and Cooke Mortgage, providing nationwide world-class customer service right here in the Mile High City. I'm David Hosterman, along with my co-host, Joe Massey, providing you with over 20 years of experience in mortgage lending. We're here to share inside knowledge and experience of the home buying process. Our guest this morning is Jackie White with Your Castle Real Estate, one of the company's top producers, bringing you over 2 years of experience in the Denver metro market. Joe, why don't you tell our listeners what's on tap for today?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Dave. Great to be here again. Today, we're going to be talking about the Foothills market, including Morrison, Conifer, and Evergreen. We've got Jackie White here. She's really an expert up in that area. She's a certified mountain specialist, so we're going to ask her a little bit about what's going on up there. Have a great event this weekend. One of our associates is actually publishing a new book, so we'll have that website for you. You're listening to AM 1690 KDMT. This is Denver's Money Talk Radio. You're listening to the Mile High Mortgage and Real Estate Report with David Hosterman and Joe Massey from Castle and Cooke Mortgage. Our phone number is 303-501-1400.
Now, for our listeners out there, we want to introduce our special guest host today. Again, it's Jackie White with Your Castle Real Estate. And also want to throw out a quick disclaimer out there that listeners are not required to use Your Castle Real Estate and Castle and Cooke Mortgage when buying their house. They are separate entities. But anyways, Jackie, we know you're one of the top producers over at Your Castle Real Estate. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your real estate expertise?
Sure. Thank you, Dave and Joe, for having me here. I'm really excited to be part of this show today. My background really is, I started out working as a marketing executive at a number of big marketing agencies, working with some high-profile clients, and decided to start looking into real estate as far as creating a way to diversify my retirement portfolio. I got really excited and passionate about real estate, so I decided to get my license about 2 years ago, and had a really successful start to my business.
Very cool. Thanks for being on the show today, Jackie.
Now, Jackie, I want to talk about the success you've had just as you've gotten started. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you were Rookie of the Year over at Your Castle Real Estate?
Yeah, I was very fortunate to get that designation at our annual meeting about a week ago.
That's great. And, a really important point, it doesn't really matter how long you've had your license. I think experience comes with how many transactions you've done. There's been a lot of agents out in the market that have only done maybe one transaction or two transactions over the last 12 or 18 months. Tell us a little bit about your production and kind of what the last 2 years have been like for you.
Sure. Yeah. It's a really natural question if somebody's interviewing a realtor to ask them, well, geez, how long have you been in the business? But I think it's really critical to also ask, how many transactions have you done in the last 12 or 24 months? You want to have a sense of, how dedicated your realtor is to the industry and how proficient they are. Last year we had about 101,000 closings and there were about 30,000 licensed agents. So that means the average agent did about 3 deals per year. And I've been averaging about 20 or more. So, I'm really getting into the business and very experienced. So, and, I also work in the Foothills and with investors and, I'm a certified mountain area specialist. So I'm really here and excited to be speaking with you about mountain real estate.
Well, thanks again for being on the show again today, Jackie. Now, for our listeners out there, can you explain exactly what a certified mountain area specialist is and how you got that designation?
Sure. Well, I've lived in Colorado for about 8 years, all in the mountains, and I just really wanted to enhance my skills when it comes to working with clients in the foothills. So it took about a year of education, really focused on mountain-specific real estate challenges, such as working through appraisals, properly pricing a home, fire mitigation, insurance, title issues, wells and septic, a number of different things related to working in the mountains. And there's really only a small group of realtors with this designation. And at Your Castle Real Estate, we have over 500 brokers. I'm actually the only person that has this designation.
Very cool.
That sounds like an excellent certification and certainly something that makes you stand out from a lot of the other real estate agents. I think that's great. Now, did it take you a long time to earn that? Did you have to go through courses? Tell me about the education process.
Sure. It took about a year for me to do that. There were courses that I took every month, and they were all very specific to mountain real estate challenges. So, I went and took all this coursework and, my coursework, coupled with my experience in the area, I know I'm very prepared to help my clients in the foothills.
That's great. So we want to talk a little bit about that. The Foothills market really encompasses Morrison, Conifer, Evergreen, some of the areas going up, 285 and I-70 up into Jefferson County. Jackie, tell us a little more about that area and some of the things that make these properties in these areas unique from the Denver metro area.
Sure. So, the Denver market is fast and furious. And, it's been rebounding in concentric circles from the Denver metro area out. So we are seeing prices rising out in the foothills now. I've seen some neighborhoods seeing year-over-year appreciation in the high teens. So we're seeing a lot of growth. And we really only, have two different types of markets. One is the million and under, and those are going very quickly because of the limited inventory. And then we see the million plus market, and those tend to sit a little bit longer, but really it's all relative because the market is very fast up in the mountains. We also have very minimal new construction in the mountains. So as you can imagine, there's not a lot of land up there. We can continue to build out east towards Kansas, but the mountain properties are pretty limited. And in Jefferson County, they actually changed some of the grading permit requirements for new construction. So it's making it even more restrictive for buyers to, build on some land. So, flatter lots are becoming more valuable, and we're just not seeing more homes going up in the mountains. So, they're a very attractive area. People, especially that are transplants to Colorado, who want that Colorado lifestyle, really enjoy living in the mountains and having access to outdoor activities like skiing and hiking and snowshoeing. And it's just an area that you can't duplicate anywhere else.
Very, very interesting. For our listeners just tuning in, we have the luxury of having Jackie White, our special guest host here with Your Castle Real Estate. Jackie can be reached at 720-475-6111. Now, Jackie, for our listeners that are out there, wondering when a good time is to buy, with you being a certified mountain area specialist, can you provide our listeners with a little detail on when a good time to buy is in the foothills? What makes a good time to buy?
Well, I'll tell you, if you find the house that you want, then go ahead and jump on it. Doesn't matter what time of year. I have to tell you, people move to the mountains and they just don't leave. They stay literally for decades in their house because it's really a lifestyle choice. You want to be in the mountains and be part of that area. So if you come across a house that you like, I say go ahead and jump on it. I work with my buyers, and I typically will tell them I adhere to the 80-10-10 rule. With any house, if you can find 80% that you love, 10% you can change, and 10% you can live with, then that's a great house for you. And I tell you, in the mountains, it's never even more, it's definitely true up there as well, because if you find a great lot and a great view and a killer location where you can, easily commute down to Denver, that's, the ultimate dream. And anything else, the countertops, the bathrooms, you can change later. So if you find a house you like it, just jump on it.
The 80-10-10 rule. I've never heard that. I love that. What a great way to decide if this is the right property for you. Now, let me ask you, Jackie, what have you seen with updated infrastructure and accessibility up in the mountains? I know, 285 was under construction for a number of years, but it seems like they've really done a lot up there. Yeah,
285 is a great medium for commuting down to the Denver area. If you can hop on 285, you can, get down to Denver in, 30, 40 minutes and still have that mountain lifestyle. We've got a lot more retail establishments up there, including, grocery stores, banks. We've got a new natural grocers up in Conifer, a lot of, restaurants. So it definitely is something where you can get to your conveniences within a few minutes and don't feel like you have to travel down to Denver. So it's really making it a very livable area.
Now, Jackie, obviously you are a certified mountain area specialist. I'm sure that's not the only area that you cover. What other areas do you cover for our listeners out there that may be looking to buy and sell property?
Sure. Well, while I live in the foothills and love working in the Evergreen, Conifer, and Morrison area and have a lot of experience up there, I do a lot of business with investors as well. So I am quite often down in Denver, and I do get referrals from folks who've been delighted by my service up in the foothills. Maybe they'll send me their friend or their family member. So I tend to find myself down in Denver frequently as well. But anything on the west side of town, I love working in. It's certainly an area that I know very well.
That's great. Jackie, if someone wanted to reach out to you, what is the best phone number they could reach you at?
Sure. Best way to reach me is on my cell phone, which is 720-475-6111.
Great. You're listening to AM 1690 KDMT. This is Denver's Money Talk Radio. This is the Mile High Mortgage and Real Estate Report with David Hosterman and Joe Massey from Castle and Cooke Mortgage. We're here with our special guest, Jackie White from Your Castle Real Estate. Dave, what's next that we have on the agenda?
It looks like what's next is the success story of the week, Joe. I think you have a very, very, very good success story of the week. Maybe you can enlighten our listeners as to what exactly that is.
Yeah, about a year ago, Jackie and I worked with a young couple who were moving here from Florida, purchasing their first house. And I believe they'd seen a few homes and decided they really wanted to live their dream of owning a home in the mountains. So their initial agent actually was not Jackie, but just because Jackie's experience up in the mountains, their initial agent referred the customer over to Jackie, and they started looking at properties. And Jackie, how long did the house search take with these folks?
I know the area really well, and they told me about their must-haves and what they were looking for in a new house. So it really only took us a few days to get under contract on a house that they were really excited about.
Great. And then they got out there and started doing some inspections and found some problems with the house, I believe, right?
Yeah, so we did the home inspection, and one of the things the inspector did was he wanted to fill the bathtub in one of the bathrooms to make sure that the jets were working. But unfortunately, the water turned off after only filling up a few inches deep in the bathtub. After that happened, I advised the buyers to have a subsequent test where they were to inspect the well for not only the water quality, but, the depth of the well and, how the pump was operating to make sure that they could have water. I mean, clearly that's something important.
That's kind of important, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And after reviewing it and getting the well test, I believe they decided to cancel on that property just due to all the issues with the water. Then from there, they went back out looking at properties and found something else pretty quickly and went under contract right away. Gosh, I think it was just a week or two for them to find the next property, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was actually a little bit quicker than that. Based on the inspection issues that they had with the well and my knowledge of that area, I put them in a different neighborhood where they actually, it's very unique. They have their own community water system, so it wasn't an individual well. And knowing that they were first-time home buyers, I didn't want them to be overwhelmed by potentially having, a lot of repairs or updates. And the house that we found was perfect because it was in tip-top shape. It had been renovated from top to bottom, and there was no out-of-pocket expense that they needed, once they were to move in. So we did the inspection. Everything went great. They were well qualified with you through Castle and Cooke, and our closing went very smoothly, and they didn't have additional out-of-pocket expenses for any repairs.
Very cool that you knew, that wells were an issue. So you found a property that they didn't have their own individual well. That's something up until this transaction I didn't even realize was available up in the mountains. I thought pretty much everything had its own individual well. So really a great success in just knowing the area and knowing the hot buttons for the customer. Great job on that one.
Yeah, thank you.
I think it just reinforces how important it is to work with a great realtor and a great lender who understand how to structure the transaction, particularly in the mountains, and understand the challenges that comes with well, septic, and some of the other inspection issues.
Again, for our listeners out there looking for any kind of refinance or purchase needs, you can reach Castle and Cooke Mortgage at 303-501-1400. And again, if you're just tuning in, our guest host this week is Jackie White with Your Castle Real Estate. Jackie can be reached at 720-475-6111. Now, Jackie, you brought up a very valid point that doesn't necessarily apply to just the mountains, is the importance of a home inspection. Can you explain to our listeners why a home inspection is important, how a home inspection works, how long it takes?
Sure. Home inspections are really important for buyers. I always advise my buyers to hire a home inspector to go through the property top to bottom, and they'll evaluate all the different systems, the HVAC, the plumbing, electrical, just making sure everything is operating properly. And sometimes what they'll do is they'll recommend that a follow-up inspection be performed if, let's say, they see something that looks unusual, maybe with the electrical or the plumbing, just to have a certified professional come take a closer look. Those inspections run you, a few $100s depending on the size of the property, and it's just money well spent. You want to get a sense of what it is you're buying, and if any repairs need to be made, and they certainly can become a negotiating tool. They typically run a couple hours. Again, it all depends on the size of the property and, if any problems are coming up during the inspection, but something I absolutely recommend that all my clients do when they go under contract.
Yeah, regardless if it's your first property or your 10th property, I think it's such a great idea to always have an inspection, have that independent third party come in there, look at the property, because when we're looking at it as a buyer, we're excited about, all right, this is where we're going to put the couch, this is what we're going to paint the living room. We really want that independent source to look at it and say, hey, there's these few issues over here that you guys really need to look at and be aware of. So really a critical piece of the entire transaction.
Now, Jackie, marketing a property for potential buyers when you're representing a seller is a very important aspect to the property. I'm sure you have some experience from your previous position as a marketing executive. Can you explain to our listeners how important marketing a property is, maybe, in the Foothills versus the Denver metro area?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my background in working in marketing, I think, is, benefiting my clients because I bring another level of expertise when it comes to efficiently and effectively marketing a property. You need to look at all the different, qualities of that property and try to market the best features that are going to get in the most number of showings. And up in the mountains, there's a number of different ways that you can do that too. I mean, people really are looking for mountain living close to Denver. And so if you've got a property that allows someone to have, some nice land around them, a view, and really feel like they're, living in the mountains with some privacy, yet can get close to Denver, that's really going to be a key selling point. There's also different communities that have specific amenities. Evergreen versus Conifer have, different things that they can offer to buyers. And there's even just things from a mountain perspective that are important, like your heat source. Or even if you're on a paved road versus a dirt road, sometimes up there, there's different communities that are very easy to access and others that look like they're pretty close as the crow flies. But quite honestly, you could get on a windy dirt road and that can double your commute. So there's different things you really need to know about the mountains. And I try to market the best features for every home.
Great. Now, when you're up in the mountains, how do you determine the value on a property? What are some of the things that you look at? If you're in Denver and you've got a dozen cookie cutter homes right next to you, it's pretty easy to come up with the value. But how does that work in the mountains?
Yeah, it is much more difficult because we just don't have any two homes that are alike. And there's a lot of different adjustments that have to be made too. If you've got fantastic views, those actually add a lot of value. If you're on a private domestic well versus a community well, that can make a difference. A lot of folks don't want to have to worry about, managing and maintaining their own well. The size of the lot has a big piece of that as well, because, quite honestly, a lot of times we'll see properties that are listed on being, 10 acres, and maybe the house is on stilts and it's on the side of a cliff. So really it's not very usable. So having a flat lot is incredible, even if it's not a lot of property. If it can be usable, especially if horses could be on the property, that's going to add a lot of value too.
Sure. Now, what about property insurance? I've had some folks have some challenges getting insurance up in the foothills. Why is that an issue up there?
Yeah, so that's an issue because, just like you have areas where there are flood ratings, up in the foothills, we have fire ratings. And so, unfortunately, we've had a lot of fires in the mountains over the last few years, and it's something that, fire season is January 1st through December 31st. It's something that's obvious about being up here. And some carriers just don't cover. I have some great folks that I can refer my buyers to so they can go ahead and get the right coverage. But, they also have to look at fire mitigation and making sure that the property is well mitigated when you're under contract, because that can be a sticking point too if your insurance provider comes and does a drive-by of the property and it's just completely overgrown. And that's something that should also be part of your inspection process up in the mountains, is to make sure that you're going to be able to obtain insurance based on, what the property looks like and how overgrown it is.
Now, Jackie and Joe, you guys bring up a great point about insurance, but Jackie, it's not going to be every area that is going to be necessarily in a fire zone or, potential fire hazard. We want to make sure that our listeners out there realize that it's going to be specific to that specific property. Is that correct, Jackie? Yeah,
absolutely. And, the mountains are a great place to live. And, I really am passionate about the foothills just outside Denver. So, every property is unique, and that's what I will guide you through your purchase.
So critical to have that expert who understands that and understands, hey, this community is on community well, and maybe they're not in the fire district. Over here, we've got something that, the trees are overgrown and it isn't a fire district. And both properties may look really similarly, but could cost much more or much less depending on some of those unique perspectives. No,
that's a great point, Joe.
Yeah. What about wildlife? Do you see a lot of wildlife up in the mountains, Jackie?
Oh, yes, I do. I can tell you bear season is upon us, and I see bears every year where I live. So that's something, people that are moving up to the mountains from the city or from out of state need to be able to adapt to, is learning to live with wildlife. You have to think about what kind of landscaping you're going to do. If you've got pets, make sure that you pull them in at night, and, certainly don't leave your trash out the night before garbage day. That's not going to go well with a bear. So there's a lot of different things that I could advise you on too when it comes to living with wildlife up in the mountains.
Great. Jackie, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what is your phone number?
Sure. Best way to get in touch with me is on my cell phone, which is 720-475-6111.
Great. Now, you're listening to AM 1690 KDMT. This is Denver's Money Talk Radio. This is the Mile High Mortgage and Real Estate Report with David Hosterman and Joe Massey from Castle and Cooke Mortgage. Our phone number is 303-501-1400. David, I believe we've got some listings of the week coming up. Tell us a little bit about the upcoming listings that you've got there.
We certainly do have a great listing of the week, and we keep talking about land and, more remote areas. This particular property is off of 4400 4th of July Road. That's in Netterling, Colorado, 80466. This is actually just a parcel of land that is being sold by Mark Eibner with Metro Brokers Realty Oasis. This is a 7.58 parcel of land that, a buyer can build their dream house on. This property is also only 35 minutes away from Pearl Street Mall. So, it's not that far out there, but yet it's going to bring that wilderness that we continue to talk about regarding the mountain properties today.
Now, Jackie, speaking of building properties, I believe you're building a new property up in the mountains, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
I am. I had the good fortune of finding some land in an area where I already lived, and very passionate about that neighborhood. So I'm going through the process and working with a custom home builder. Fortunately, my husband has a chainsaw and a lot of muscle, so he's over there clearing the land right now. But I'm learning a lot about the process of building a new home, and I can tell you firsthand that the county has changed some of their requirements, and it is making it more difficult to find the right type of property. But when you have the right one, I've got a lot of experts that I've been working with when it comes to land planning, surveys, or even a custom home builder that I can refer you to, because I've been going through this firsthand.
Yeah, so that's just going to be one more thing to add to your area of specialty is going to be certified mountain area specialist and certified mountain building specialist, right? That's right. Although I'll tell you, I'm not going to clear the trees for you.
Jackie, thanks again for being on the show today. Again, Jackie White with Your Castle Real Estate, 720-475-6111. Now, Joe, why don't you tell our listeners about the event of the weekend?
Absolutely, Dave. The event is really kind of fun. One of the affiliates that I work with, he works at Pine Financial Group. He just wrote a brand new book called The 45-Day Investor. Really focuses on people who are looking to buy their very first investment property, rental property, or fix and flip. And this is a book that you can download at www.45dayinvestor.com. I'm not sure what the cost is. I know that it's just been published just a couple weeks ago, but I would encourage you to take a look at it. Kevin is one of the smartest investors I've ever met. He's done hundreds of transactions, really knows about building a real estate portfolio, does a lot of work with beginning investors to help them get started with their real estate development. It's really a great book, and we encourage all of our listeners to get out there and take a look at that book.
It's always good to have a good reference guide when you're buying real estate.
Absolutely. Now let's talk a little bit about next week's show. We're going to have Dave's guest, Jenny Tempest, on. Dave, what real estate brokerage is she with?
Jenny works with Equity Colorado. So Jenny brings a lot of experience in the Mile High marketplace. Jenny specializes in that Littleton area, specifically Columbine Valley. We're very excited to have Jenny on board next week.
Excellent. Jackie, tell us any last thoughts that people should know about, or any tips or tricks about mountain properties that folks should watch out for.
Sure. I think if you're considering purchasing a house or selling one up in the mountains, you really want to make sure that you have a realtor that is qualified and knows the area to not only, properly price the property, but also, market it. And if you're buying, going through inspections that are pretty specific to the mountains. So, whether you're testing a well for the right water quality or working through the new septic regulations that we have in the state, there's some areas where if you don't have the experience, you can really find yourself in trouble. And it's important to work with a qualified professional that really understands how to navigate that process and get you on a quick path to closing.
I think you're exactly right. You've got to have that qualified realtor to guide you through the process. You've got to have the lender that understands it. You want to make sure you're getting the appropriate inspections. You really can get in a lot of trouble if you buy a property that has problems and you haven't done your homework up front. So it's critical to have those goals or have those pieces in place with your team. One last time, Jackie, if someone wants to reach out to you, what is your phone number and the best way they can reach you?
Yeah, the best way to reach me is on my cell phone, which is 720-475-6111.
Now, for any listeners out there looking to either refinance or purchase, you could definitely reach us here at Castle and Cooke Mortgage at 303-501-1400. We would be more than happy to help you out with any of your mortgage-related needs.
Dave, thanks so much for joining us again for another great show. Jackie, it's been a pleasure having you on. Any questions that folks have about financing, you can reach us at Castle and Cooke Mortgage at 303-501-1400. You've been listening to AM 1690 KDMT. This is Denver's Money Talk Radio. This was the Mile High Mortgage and Real Estate Report brought to you by David Hosterman and Joe Massey with Castle and Cooke Mortgage. Thank you, Jackie White from Your Castle Real Estate, our special guest. Hope everyone has a fantastic Saturday. Make sure to download the new book from Kevin Amolsch, www.45dayinvestor.com. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week with Jenny Tempest, our special guest.